All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Ellie Sarmati. I'm a CEO and founder of Thravos. If you haven't read or seen in social or heard about what Thravos is, we're here to disrupt the sports industry as it relates to the athlete's life, the way they build community, the way they make money, the ups, the downs, the greats. And we're here with our interview series of amazing athletes uncovering how they started, how they got here, and all the rest of it. And today I have the pleasure of having Greg Minnaar here. He's one of our athletes. He is a mountain biking true legend with a record of 25 years being an elite level athlete. Four world championships, and just his name is everywhere. It's a huge success from the start of his career to leading teams on a global stage. Greg has defined excellence and resilience in sports. Greg, it's really a privilege to have you here, and I'm so excited to firsthand uncover how you came to be and the rest of your journey going forward. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Lee. Thanks for having me. It's always good to catch up, and yeah, I'm excited to dig deep and answer some questions.
Amazing. And we talked a little bit about that beautiful background. Maybe you can just tell the audience where you're based and
Yeah,
how you got to be so
um,
lucky.
yeah, it's beautiful. Andorra is a beautiful place, beautiful country, and I'm originally South African, but most of our racing is in Europe, so I needed a base in Europe. So I moved out to Andorra probably about 5 years ago, where, as you can see, it's very mountainous, beautiful outdoor country, and so it was great for my racing. Got to train a lot, and yeah, it's got great riding. So it's been a great, really good place for me to base and finish off my career, really.
Yeah, amazing. I'm very jealous. Where I live, everything's flat. So
Oh,
even when you go for a walk, you get a little bit bored from seeing the same
right,
thing
right.
over and over again. So anyway, so yeah, let's get right into this. So, in your 25-year career at the top of
Hmm.
downhill racing, what habits or mindsets would you say helped you stay at your best? Like, especially when you had an injury or a setback, like how would you say these things helped you shape your approach to both sports and but also your personal life?
Yeah, I think like for me, it was I was pretty hard on critiquing myself and trying to understand where my weaknesses were, and then trying to fix and adjust. So after every season, it was this basically a strip down and understand where I could be better and improve and work on that to the following season. I guess how that correlates into personal life is to always strive to be better, right? And that's what we're always trying to do. Perfection is probably the goal, but it's an unreachable goal. But
Mm,
without a goal like that, you'll never ever try and be better and try and fix the problems you have.
100%. Yeah. And, there's no other way really, not just in sports, but also in life, right? If you don't always put yourself on that path, you're really not going anywhere. But to be a champion, there's a different level of it required, right? Which you have obviously mastered. In this process of like going through the races and the challenges, do you recall a moment that you had like I'm sure you do, but was there a time where there was like a tough loss or an um, an unexpected win that made you change your perspective on competition or on personal growth?
Yeah, it's always those near wins, when you're like in second place and it's just by, you know, the tiniest bit of time. Yeah, those are the hardest ones to accept. And they're probably the most effective in changing your approach to things. Um, I remember racing in Australia and coming second by had to be less than half a second, so it was really tight.
Wow.
But one of the things I realized was that I put so much attention and focus into sport um, within my preparation, and I felt like I wasn't really present through it, so I wasn't really. I was too busy worried about other people watching what I was doing,
Yeah.
rather than focusing on myself. And you tend to have a lot more fun, and you have a better understanding of things when you're more present than when you're trying to go under the radar or move around and try and do things where other people can't really see you doing it. So, I felt like that was a race that really adjusted the way I approach racing to be a bit more present through the build up to the race. There's a lot of training on track, and people are watching to see what line you're going to take and how you're going to do these sections. And I was so busy focused on not showing them my hand that I ended up, being defeated. But it's I guess that's also probably some maturity and confidence as well, lack of confidence. And I felt like being present, you're probably a little bit more confident than when you're not present.
Right. So you mean like disappearing the surrounding area and just being present in the moment of what you're doing,
I
your
think so.
strategy. Yeah. Right.
You can get so caught up with everybody else's strategies and trying to keep yours away from theirs and keep your eyes on their strategies that you're just not present with your own.
Right.
At the end of the day, it's you and what you need to do to perform and to be the best you can be.
Right.
And I think that goes with everything in life. But it's really easy to watch what other people do, and so yeah, that to me was one of the hardest second places to accept, but probably one of the best learning curves I had.
And how old were you when this happened? Like how early in your career?
Oh, it wasn't that early. I turned professional on 18 when I was 18 years old, and this had
Wow.
got to be I was probably about 28 when this happened. But I had a lot of injury in my early years of racing. So this was 2008. I think I was about 28, 28, 29 maybe, and I just had a shoulder reconstructed, and
Mm.
I was going back out to try and win some World Cups.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Was that the shoulder injury? Was that the one where you raced through with a broken shoulder? Was that the same?
Yeah, yeah. So my shoulder, I dislocated at the end of 2001 season. So it was my first World Cup overall title, and I went into a French Cup at the end of the season and ended up crashing and dislocating my shoulder. And my shoulder hindered me through the next 7 years, or 6 years. So going into 2007, we went to Scotland to a racetrack that I usually do quite well at,
Mm.
and I ended up crashing mid-race, and my shoulder dislocated as it had been doing most of the season, but um, it had dislocated anterior and then broke the scapula as well. But in the heat of the moment and all the adrenaline going, and I was just absolutely focused on trying to win this race, regardless if I crashed or not.
Yeah.
I got up and kept racing down, which then really destroyed my shoulder. So I ended up fourth, almost on the podium, and I was pretty disappointed about that. And
Huge achievement,
then
though.
off I went. Sorry.
Huge achievement given the circumstances. I
Oh,
mean,
well, yeah. I mean, no one really wants to come fourth, though. So,
yeah, for sure.
um, so it was one of those things where I had to. The season was done, and or at least my season was done, and I had to get my shoulder reconstructed. So going into 2008, it was like a whole new Greg Minnaar. I had a new shoulder. I had a shoulder that wasn't dislocating all the time.
Mm.
And yeah, I went back out to try and win some races. I'd had years of a little bad luck and injury prior to that. So this was felt like a second win in my career.
Mm. Do you think that psychology of, being present in the moment allow you to be less prone to injury because you're just sort of more focused at the task at hand versus looking around and wondering what everyone else is doing? Do you think that had anything like any
I mean, it definitely can, but in our sport, it's there's a
in
lot of injury, unfortunately. So unfortunately, you
gonna have it?
you'll get an injury here or there.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's a huge lesson for the younger athletes that are entering the game of like learning that psychology earlier on. of, being in the present and focusing at the task at hand. Obviously, you have to consider a little bit your competitors. You can't just zone them out completely because you are competing against them. But it must be a very interesting or complicated balancing act of how much do you pay attention to that versus, really focus on your own path and your own task and, your own way to get to the end. It must take like a lot of mental strength and practice to get to that right balance, right?
Yeah, it's hard because in downhill racing, you although you have competitors and they might be on different lines or different equipment or how they've set their bike up,
Yeah.
and how they're training. Uh, it's you can see it all. You can try and follow them. You can try and see what they're doing, but you're racing the clock, and so you can waste a lot of energy and a lot of time trying to see what others are doing, and it's often best spent on yourself. So it's a very tricky sport. If you've got no gauge on where your competitors are, so um, you can easily overcook it in a run, in a race run, and crash, or you can just ride too conservatively and end up third or fourth. So it would be a lot easier if we could see where our competitors were during the race. It would make things so much easier because you'd know how much more risk you'd need to put into the run or if you could play it safe or not. So unfortunately, it's not the way, and we have to just be the best we can at in every element of the track.
Yeah. I mean, that's with anything else in life too. Like in the startup world, it's the same, right? Like we're competing all the time with others, and you never know what others are doing. You can guess and assume and study and research, but in the end, it's kind of blind to an extent, to a great extent. And you can't completely phase them out, but you also can't put too much effort and thought into what everyone else is doing. You really have to focus on your strategy and executing as best as possible and winning the game. So anyway, so yeah, so it's really fascinating how the human mind can make so much difference in these types of activities. So anyway, so amazing. If you had a magic wand and you could do one thing in your career up to this point differently, one thing, what would you say that one thing would be? Or would there be
Um,
anything you would do differently?
oh yeah, definitely. There'll be tons of stuff. If there was one thing, I'd probably not go back to that French Cup and race and dislocate my shoulder in 2001. That would definitely be up there.
Yeah, but
Um,
I'm not talking about like avoiding an injury. I'm talking about like
um,
career
I think I
decision.
think I think for me it was, I really lacked a lot of confidence when I raced, although I felt it there was a benefit to that as well. It
Yeah.
made me put a lot more attention and focus into things because I lacked the confidence. But I also ran like at a really high stress level, just trying to do too much and not just take it a little bit easier getting into the race. And and although it's already been done and you can't go back and change things,
Yeah.
I feel like my process at the time worked really well, but there was much better ways to do things. But I just didn't have no, I think the team around me to guide me into that. But it's a lot easier to see from the outside in than the inside out.
100%. But there's always learning, right? And now that you are a true legend, there's millions that would love to learn from you. So, we're hoping with these interview series that we give some lessons back to the younger crowd. And you're also doing that on a daily basis now, managing a team and being on the sort of that side of it. Can you say a little bit about that? Like how does it feel being in this position versus like racing full time? What's the transition? How do you feel about it? What's next steps for you as you have, officially sort of retired from World Cup racing?
Yeah, I think the transition was really fast. I, I finished up racing this time last year, and I jumped straight into prepping for the season. It was a whole new experience, So I took over the team directorship for the Norco Race Division. But then when we get to the events, I kind of slot in between the performance side as well as the engineering and technical side. Because I'm still testing and developing bikes, it's important that I work within the engineering and with the technicians. And then I still help the athletes from a performance side. And it's been an incredible year to lead the team in my first season and to have, well, I think we had 4 or 5 World Cup wins this season, 4 World Cup wins this season. It was incredible.
Yeah.
And we had some athletes that we took, right to the top. We were close on winning the World Cup overall. We ended up second, and with Gracie Hemstreet. So it was an incredible year, but also a incredible experience for myself.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
Something where I felt that winning was a little bit more meaningful, helping others than winning yourself, which is something that I didn't really expect. And you put so much effort into trying to help athletes to perform their best and be the best they can be, and you trying to be the best you can be, and it's all up to them to kind of put it all together to win the race or do well. And when regardless of whether they do or don't, you still put in that 100% effort. And when they do succeed, it's a pretty special feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. For most of us, contributing back at some point in our lives, once we get to a certain place, becomes really meaningful. Whether some of us have kids, some of us don't have kids. If you have kids, you end up on a daily basis, you're contributing back in a shape or form, right? But if you don't, then there's this sort of giving back to community, contributing to others, kind of taking your footsteps. It's amazing to see that you're doing that, and it's interesting to hear that you find it so invigorating and exciting. So what's next for you then? Do you think that this is what you'll be doing for the foreseeable future, or you have other plans on the map that's public?
You
What's
know, I don't really know what the future holds. I've got another year of doing this, and so far it's been amazing. So um, yeah, I can see myself slotting into this kind of role, and I do enjoy it for a couple of years and see where we go. It's been a great experience so far. So I'd like to take this team to the top. I think we came from probably about 20th in the world to now sitting 8th. So it'll be nice to take this team all the way to the top.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. I've been following you guys on social, obviously. Um, we're coming to the end of our interview, but I wanted to touch a little bit on the community aspect of being an athlete. How have you been very successful at establishing that for yourself on social channels? How would you what's the advice, I guess, you would give to the younger youths out there that are getting going and they're, trying to build their fan base and their community and their support system? Well, how did you get it going? What did you do that was right? What's your advice to them as they get going in their careers? With respect to really kind of building that strong fan base that supports their career going forward.
I think, especially the last couple of years, we've started to emphasize how building a community is so important and the importance of it. And I think some of us probably built it without even knowing how important this community base really was.
Mm,
I think, with technology and the way it's gone forward, it makes it a lot easier to communicate amongst your community,
mm,
and brings the community a lot closer to you. And it's something that's important for all athletes from all sports, and I guess for business as well. It's a way to start things. It's a way to change the space around you. It's a way to change the future. So community is a very important part of most athletes and most people's lives, and it's important to kind of work with the community to try and drive things forward.
Yeah, 100%. And you do such a great job at being very authentic and putting out your journey and really giving a real feel, which is where the world is today, right? We're all about authenticity, about being real, about sharing the journey, and having them really be part of what it is that you're going through. So I love what you've done and how you share, and you get a lot of response from your ecosystem. It's really powerful. And I'm excited to watch the next phase of where you're headed and the team and whatever else you may end up doing, and your engagement with Thravos, of course, I'm most excited about. This is thank you so much for being on this interview. I appreciate it, and it was really fun to uncover some of the details in your life.
No, thanks, Eddie. Thanks for having me. And yeah, it's always good to chat. And yeah, we're looking forward to seeing Thravos kick it off.
Thank you. Thanks, Greg.